I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View.
There's a specific kind of moment in American politics when someone finally says out loud what millions of people have been thinking quietly for years. Not with anger, not with a megaphone, just with clarity. And when it happens, it cuts right through the noise. What you're about to watch is one of those moments. A lifelong liberal, someone who has spent decades defending the left, sitting down and telling his own party that one of its loudest institutions has become one of its biggest problems. No shouting, no personal attacks. Just an argument so grounded in facts and so impossible to dismiss that it forces you to ask a question the Democratic Party has been avoiding for years. How did we get here? And more importantly, is there any road back?
I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View. I really believe that. I mean,
it's huge in Iran, though.
Imagine The View in Iran, all with the same head cover. You can't even tell which one is which.
My district in the great state of Texas is actually a white majority district that President Trump would have won by 25 points. And as I said, I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My great-great-grandfather was born on a Rosedown plantation. I am literally being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. That's the progress, because like a lot of white people had to vote for me. A lot.
Stop and think about what just happened there. A sitting United States congressman, a direct descendant of an enslaved American, representing a majority white Texas district that went heavily for the opposing party, stood up and said this country gave him something real. That is not a talking point. That is a lived experience. And it directly contradicts the narrative that daytime television has been selling for 2 decades. The numbers tell the same story. According to a recent Rasmussen poll, only 27% of Americans view The View favorably. That means nearly 3 out of 4 Americans have already tuned out what that panel is saying. The audience is ahead of the media. They always are.
But where the Iranian regime is today,
I'm sorry.
They used to
just keep hanging black people.
It is not even the same. I couldn't step wearing this outfit.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Listen, I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you, that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it.
Very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Do not anyone at the table.
Listen, let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But, yeah, I know that. But every day, we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot property. They cannot leave votes.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent. But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. When you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe.
They can't go out of their house. Women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
What you just witnessed is not a misquote. It is not a clip taken out of context. A co-host of one of the most watched daytime programs in the country looked into a camera and suggested that being a person of color in the United States in 2025 is comparable to living under a regime that has arrested over 30,000 women since 2022 for the act of showing their hair. The same regime that made the name Mahsa Amini known around the world. The co-host pushing back was not being dismissive. She was being accurate. And the woman doing the comparing was doing it from the chair of an $8 million a year television contract. Sometimes the contrast speaks entirely for itself.
New Republic just ran a story about the vulnerable minorities who want to flee America, including the author, a man trapped in the dystopian homophobic hellscape that is New York City. I wonder if he knows that there are 66 countries where just being is a crime. Cute story in the news last month. Burundi's president called on his citizens to stone people, and not in the good way. Wow, suddenly the don't say law doesn't sound all that bad. And Uganda? Oh, they don't just give you a ticket for parking in the rear. You can get the death penalty for it.
466 countries. That number is not rhetorical. It is the actual count of nations where existing as who you are is classified as a criminal act. Places where the consequence is not a protest outside your office or a harsh editorial. The consequence is imprisonment, or worse. And this is the lens that Maher keeps trying to reintroduce into a conversation that has drifted so far from global reality that it has lost the ability to measure itself accurately. When the loudest voices in liberal media spend their energy convincing Americans that this country belongs in the same sentence as those nations, they are not speaking truth to power. They are just speaking to their audience, and the audience is shrinking.
I've watched what's happened in America over the last 8 years. Yeah, he did win 4 years ago. And from that time also came all of the jokes about he's not American, he's not this, he's not that. And, you know, hearing people make sort of the kind of off-center racist joke that isn't, you know.
About his children,
Or someone who said, and I'm not going to say who it was, but it was somebody sort of high up who said, you know, to think of it, this is a guy that would have been parking my car. And I looked at him.
Who said that?
I'm not telling you who said it.
All right. Tell me later.
But
Tell me later.
Because the point is not who said it. The point is that it was said.
Yeah.
You know, and from, you know, accusing him of looking like Curious George, all the stuff. You know, so suddenly when you hear all of this and you hear all the obstructionist stuff.
The grievance tape just kept rolling. 8 years of it. Every slight, every coded comment, every moment cataloged and ready for broadcast. And look, real racism is real and it deserves to be named. That is not the argument here. The argument is about proportion, about the difference between documenting injustice and building an entire media identity around it. Because here is what the public filings show. The woman describing her suffering to Daytime America has reportedly earned over $130 million since joining that program in 2007. Every check signed by the country she keeps describing as a place that does not value her. At some point, the math stops adding up, and voters notice that too.
Because the basic problem we have in America is conservatives think the liberals are insane, and they're not completely wrong. Now, I don't think most liberals are insane, but neither do they make it clear they disapprove of the ones who are, and their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall. I couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does. And there's a lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society.
This is the core of everything. Not the individual clips, not the specific arguments. This is the structural problem Maher has been pointing at for years. It is not that most liberals are radical. It is that the non-radical liberals refuse to say so publicly. They stay quiet. They look away. They let the loudest voice in the room define what the whole room believes. And the voters respond accordingly. Democrats are currently sitting at 28% favorability nationally. That is the lowest number in more than 30 years. The party did not lose those voters because of one bad election cycle. It lost them one unanswered moment at a time.
I think because we have gone backwards a good 10, 15 years, we're having to re-educate people. We're having to re-educate people about how women want to be talked about, how Black people want to be talked about, how Hispanic people want to be talked about. And yeah, it's a little bit tough. Native Americans, the Asian folks. I mean, these are all things that I thought we all worked together and got everybody to the point where here's what you can't say. And just so you know, Bill, the Lift Every Voice has always been considered the Black national anthem. It's always been that because the separation of the anthems has been so clear to us. Now, maybe other people don't feel like that, but I feel like, we have to re-educate and retell people. We don't think rape humor is funny. We don't think, talk about Native Americans in a really despicable way. It's funny. It's not funny. And we have to
re-educate. Say that word slowly, because the people at home heard it clearly, even if the panel did not. No parent watching that segment wants a television host deciding what their children should think, how their neighbors should speak, or which version of history their community should accept. That instinct, the instinct to correct rather than to persuade, is not a communications problem, it is a philosophy problem. And it has been bleeding the modern left of working-class support for the better part of a decade. You do not win people over by announcing that they need to be fixed.
Program The View last week devoted a lot of time to this while somehow avoiding what I actually said. It seemed to be a lot about a need to school me on the Black national anthem itself. Whoopi Goldberg said we need two anthems because, quote, we're having to re-educate people. Because nothing ever goes wrong when you start talking about re-education. Just ask Chairman Mao. Maybe we can set up some sort of camp. Now,
Chairman Mao. 2 words, and the entire studio understood exactly why they landed. Because history does not need to be explained when the parallel is that direct. Every government that has ever used the language of re-education has eventually had to build something to do it in. Maher did not need 3 paragraphs to make that point. He needed 5 seconds. And that is the difference between someone who understands how power actually works and someone who has spent 2 decades inside a studio talking about it.
You wouldn't be obstruction. You wouldn't be doing this to somebody else. Why are you doing this?
Well, the whole thing was based on his race.
You have to, and you don't have to understand it. You don't have to get it. But people of color know what this means. We know. Because it's part of the underlying conversation. Because it's been part of our conversation for 8 years. Because no president has ever had to deal with this. None. So there is a lot of that. And whether you agree with it or not, as a Black person and a person of color and a person who's been paying attention to this, it does have
more labels, more categories, more division drawn along the lines of ancestry and skin tone. And this is the part that a growing number of minority voters themselves are rejecting. According to research from the American Enterprise Institute, more voters from minority communities identified as proud Americans than white progressives did in 2024. The country that progressive media keeps describing is not the country most people are living in. The map and the territory have separated, and the people paying the price for that gap are the ones the left claims to be fighting.
I'm what you might call an old-school liberal who was brought up with the crazy idea that segregating by race is bad. That's what I was talking about. And again, when it comes to an anthem, it doesn't have to be the one we currently use, but it has to be just one. Because it's a national anthem. And symbols of unity matter, and purposefully fragmenting things by race reinforces a terrible message that we are two nations hopelessly drifting apart from each other. That's not where we were even 10 years ago, and it's not where we should be now. Where we should be now is here.
There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America.
One nation, one anthem. That used to be the entire argument of the civil rights movement. The demand was not for a separate table. The demand was to sit at the same one. And somewhere between then and now, a significant portion of the modern left quietly reversed that position and started building the separate tables back. A professor who has dedicated his academic career to the history of that anthem said it plainly. Singing a separate anthem suggests a desire for a separate nation. That is not a conservative talking point. That is a black scholar citing Martin Luther King Jr., and the response from daytime television was to promise he would be hearing from Whoopi soon.
I don't even ever want to hear Whoopi Goldberg's conversation about how it's worse to be black in America right now. That's a bit far. And my father, who's 75 years old, he was a man that was in the French quarters that had to go get a sandwich to the back door of the building. And his son is now a United States congressman in a white majority district in Texas as a Republican. That is America. That's America. So let's celebrate that.
Yes. And one of the ways we celebrate it is Juneteenth. It's a Texas holiday, began in Texas and Galveston.
The congressman from Texas just did something the modern left has been unable to do for years. He told a story about real progress without apologizing for it. His father, a man who had to walk to the back door of a restaurant to buy a sandwich, raised a son who now holds a seat in the United States Congress, representing a majority white district as a member of the opposing party. That is not a denial of history. That is what history changing actually looks like. And daytime television cannot afford to tell that story because it doesn't fit the narrative the business model is built on.
Oh yeah, that guy. Timothy Askew, a professor at Clark Atlanta University, wrote an entire book about Lift Every Voice and Sing. And he said, to sing the black national anthem suggests that black people are separatist and want to have their own nation. This means that everything Martin Luther King Jr. believed about being one nation gets thrown out the window. Thanks, Professor. You'll be hearing from Whoopi. But he's right. If we have two anthems, why not 3 or 5? Why not a woman's anthem, a Latino anthem, a trans, indigenous peoples, and Asian Pacific Islander anthem? Because I'm not dealing with you, I'm not speaking to you, is not a way you can run a country. And most people of all backgrounds understand that already and don't even want to try to do it that way. I'm not out of step. Believing in separate but equal, that's out of step. By 67 years.
2 anthems become 3. 3 become 5. 5 become 20. And at that point, you no longer have a country. You have a collection of factions sharing a zip code. Maher's logic here is not complicated, and it is not partisan. It is mathematical. The moment you accept the premise that the national anthem belongs to some Americans and not others, you have already conceded the argument that there is no shared American identity left to protect. And a nation without a shared identity is not a nation at all. It is a negotiation.
To run for office in America, you have to want to live here. I bring this up because there was a video that made the rounds recently by a woman who said she was a proud progressive and was running for state representative in New Hampshire, and yet posted this.
Is there a place we can move that people would be happy to have us, that we're not gentrifying or colonizing? I don't want to be a problem, but I need to get out of this country.
Out of this country. The one you want to be elected to a leadership position in? What was your campaign slogan? America, a shining on a hill? Even prostitutes have to pretend they like what they do.
candidate for state representative, actively campaigning, publicly asking where she could move because she needed to get out of the country she was asking voters to let her lead. And this is not an isolated incident. This is a type. The modern progressive movement has quietly filled itself with people who treat public service as a burden, who frame the act of loving America as something naive or embarrassing, and who cannot understand why the working-class voters they claim to represent keep choosing someone else. You cannot lead a country you are trying to escape. The voters figured that out. The party has not.
Kind of late in the fourth quarter for America, and we're behind by 3 touchdowns. Let's make one last stab at a grand bargain between the two sides that hate each other so much. America used to do this all the time, make bargains, and I've suggested many myself, like, you stop saying fetuses are the same as babies, and we'll stop saying trans women are the same as biological women. You stop saying alternative facts, and we'll stop saying my truth. You stop saying thoughts and prayers, and we'll stop with the land acknowledgement. You admit there's no such thing as voter fraud, and we'll admit that getting a picture ID isn't really that hard to do.
Stuff like that.
But as it is so late in the game, let's just go right to the granddaddy of bargains now. The left will seriously quash all their loony woke, and the right will stop the slide into autocracy. That's really the only card left to play.
Strip away all the individual moments, and this is what Maher is actually proposing. A trade. The left stops performing the parts of its politics that the vast majority of Americans find alienating and condescending. The right stops the drift towards something the founders specifically designed this country to prevent. That is the whole bargain. And the reason it sounds radical is not because it is extreme. It is because both sides have drifted so far toward their own worst instincts that the center now feels like a foreign country. In Maher's view, the voters have not moved. The parties have. And one of them moved a lot further than the other.
Because 50 years ago, liberals didn't concede patriotism. Abbie Hoffman was the quintessential 60s radical, and when he had to appear before the House Un-American Activities Committee, he wore an American flag shirt, which some cops later ripped off his back. Because the message that most threatens authoritarians isn't America sucks, it's America is ours too. Every election year, Democrats seem to remember patriotism for about an hour at their convention when they're trying to win back swing voters. The whole message of Kamala's speech in 2024 was take back the flag. That's why she talked about America like a pageant contestant.
The greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.
Hard to believe she lost, huh? Well, you can't take back the flag in an hour if the rest of the time you treat patriotism as something vaguely embarrassing.
Abbie Hoffman wore the flag. Not because he agreed with everything it represented in that moment, because he understood that claiming ownership of the symbol was itself the act of defiance. The message was not that America was perfect. The message was that America belonged to him too. And that idea, that the flag is not the property of any single party or any single administration, used to be the foundation of the American left. Democrats spent an hour at their 2024 convention trying to borrow it back. The voters saw the clock. They knew how much time had passed since the last time it felt.
The problem is, there's kind of a stink on it because you know who is president right now, so the left half of the country fears he'll make the anniversary about him. Of course he will. I even bet that on Kalshi. The question is whether we all will help him do it. We shouldn't. This is about America. He isn't America. He's a temporary caretaker of America. America's employee. And the message should be that America isn't actually his, and that no one side gets to own being psyched about the country. So I'm not down with this attitude of, well, we're having a party, but if Trump's going, I'm not. That's so high school. Go to the party. It's a big celebration. You probably won't run into him. This country's 3.8 million square miles, and that's without Greenland.
He is the temporary caretaker. America is the house. And no caretaker, regardless of how much noise they make while they are there, gets to rename the building. That framing matters because the modern left has spent years organizing its entire political identity around one opponent. Every conversation reduced to one villain. Every celebration poisoned by one grudge. And in the process, the love of the country itself became collateral damage. Maher told his own side to let go of the grudge long enough to go to the party. It is a 250-year-old country. It has survived worse house guests than this one. The question now is whether the people who claim to love it most can find their way back to actually showing it.